is the green crayon from the crayon box. Before I start, I've got a couple of disclaimers. The first one is that I am by no means a professional makeup artist. I have no idea what I'm doing. And two, I did get most of these tips from other YouTube tutorials and just kind of compiled them into this. But anyway, this is my tutorial on how to simply do steampunk makeup. It looks pretty complicated, but it's actually quite easy. I mean, if I can do it, you can probably do it too. So without further ado, here we go. For this you're going to need a couple of things. I'm going to start off with primer, and that just goes like on the base of your face because that makes the face paint go on easier. And the face paint I'm going to be using is metallic Snazaroo, and I've got some black as well. You can get this from Snazaroo website, or you can just use any metallic face paints, it doesn't really matter. You're also going to need an eyeshadow palette, specifically the green and copper, but it just totally depends on what colours you're going to use. And for the dots, I got this from another YouTube video and I honestly can't remember which one it was, but if you cut down a paintbrush so it's like really short, I don't know if you can see it very well there, but that makes a perfectly round tool to do the dots on your face, and that's really useful. You're also going to need some eyeliner and just like mascara and just a couple of basic makeup tools. Brushes are really helpful as well. There's many different shapes of brushes that you've got, I would try and use, and just as you're going through, if you need to do a certain angle or whatever, just use whichever brush you see fit. That's basically what I do. What I'm doing here is just covering my face in a basic primer. This leaves like a clean base to put the face paint on. It just goes on so much better. This is a tip for generally any kind of face paint as well. So if you want to put on like white face paint especially, I would definitely recommend putting a primer on first. Not only that, but it makes it much easier to take off as well. You're just going to need some water for the face paint. I always put the water in the lid of the face paint. I don't know why, I just do. Then you just want to take a sponge or a brush or something and draw a line from the edge of your eye to the end of your face, and going upwards you want to colour that in green or blue or whatever colour you happen to be using. Remember, if you haven't used face paint before, if it's a water-based paint, which all Snazaroo is, then you want to put a little bit of water on it first, but you don't want to put too much, because if you put too much then it ends up being too watery and it'll run down your face, and if you don't put enough on, it just won't go on your face. So it's quite easy to find that stasis, but try to find it pretty soon, otherwise you're going to spend a long time putting the face paint on. Here I'm just going over my face and filling in all the gaps, remembering to get in the eyes and things. You might want to layer this up quite a lot, and at this point it doesn't really matter if your face paint isn't very even. You want to make sure that it's not awful, but you're going to be drawing quite a lot on it, so you probably won't notice if it's not that even, especially with the metal that you're going to do in a minute. It'll give it a more authentic look. I'm just adding a little bit of the metal that's going to be silver. I think it just gives it a more varied look and just makes it look a bit better. You don't have to do this though, and I know you can't see me putting it on very well because the light isn't very good and I'm already really pale, but just trust me, you'll see it later. This is where you start adding the copper from the metal. As I said before, it doesn't really matter if it's kind of streaky and not very even, because it just makes it look more sort of rusted. But what is important is that you don't go over the lines into the silver or the green bit that you did before. If you do a little bit, then you can fix it now, but make sure that you do fix it now, otherwise it's going to look wonky when you're finished. This is where you're going to need a steady hand. Take the eyeliner that I said before. I prefer to use a felt tip eyeliner, but it doesn't really matter. And draw a line between the divide at the top and bottom half of your face and around the silver if you did it before. I've got to apologise for this bit because it's where my mum walked in, but I'm just going to show you how to touch up the areas a little bit if you didn't get an even line, which I totally didn't. If you just take a paintbrush, it doesn't really matter as long as you clean it first, and dip it in the copper and just go around the edges. It's easier if you do it in the copper, but if you need to do it in the green or the silver, then go ahead. Copper's darker, so it's easier to go over it with, but it doesn't really matter. So here you want to split the bottom part of your face up into different sections. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but I would advise doing the nose in the same way, because I've done this a couple of times. If you don't do the nose right, it's going to look pretty weird. I mean, mine looks pretty strange, but that's only because my lines aren't even. But yeah, just go for it for this bit. This is where it gets kind of technical. Take an eyeshadow colour. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as it's kind of metallic, so use kind of like reds and golds and browns. And put it in around the lines in the section that you picked. This just gives it a lot of depth and makes it look like there's different types of metal on your face. When I was halfway through doing this, my camera stopped filming, but you'll be able to see basically how you do it. Remember that paintbrush that I mentioned earlier? Yeah, this is when you want to use it. You want to put it in quite dry black paint. If you put it too wet, then it's going to run and it won't be such a perfect circle. Then you just want to put it around the edge of all of the sections. Remember to stagger it, so kind of put one on one side and then one on the other, etc. This isn't always possible, but do this as much as you can. If you put too many on it, then it just won't look real. Now you just want to add some lines and shapes in the style of a circuit board. You can just copy what I'm doing, or you can look at some reference pictures if you'd prefer. I'm sorry that I'm rushing a little bit here, but the light was starting to fade and I'd rather show you all of the tutorial than half of it and then half later. I should note that I'm using a felt tip liner here, but you don't have to. I just think that it gets a straighter line, but if you want to use like a face paint or whatever, then that's fine too. Now I'm just colouring my eyebrows in with black eyeshadow. I'm using black because I just think it makes it look more like a circuit board. You don't have to, and if you want to do this in another way other than eyeshadow, then totally go for it. It's just all I had available at the time. Take the paintbrush that you were using to do the rivets on the copper before and dip it in the silver, and just at the end of each of the lines that you did as a circuit board, just put a little bit of silver. You could do this in eyeliner as well. I just think since you've already got this tool, that it's so much easier. I'm just adding some random serial numbers in the middle for this. It literally does not matter what you write, but if you look at a lot of circuit boards, they quite often have just random letters and numbers that obviously mean something that I have no idea what it stands for. You don't have to do this, it's totally optional, and I know I did it really bad, but again, I'm rushing, sorry about that. For the finishing touch, you just want to go underneath all of the lines that you did for the circuit board and put a blue or a green to add depth like you did for the copper underneath. I did some of this in blue and some of this in green just to show what the different effects it gives, but I prefer the blue personally. And then you want to go all the way around the green section that you did, pretty much doing the same thing and blending it in as you go. If you want to go over the eyeliner after you've done this, then that's totally fine, just make sure that you have a steady hand. Now for the eyes. For the eyeshadow, you just want to go over all with the green and then get a slightly darker green and go from the outside of your eye and just do a gradient on the way in. It's pretty simple and it's just how you would do a normal smoky eye, except the colours are green instead. And then just put normal black mascara on. If you want to use false eyelashes, then go for it, but I would recommend only doing this if you're quite good at putting them on, because if your eyes water or whatever and it makes your makeup run, then it'll just be a disaster. Just black mascara will do, and then you want to do your waterline with a white eyeliner. It doesn't matter if this is pencil or whatever, just as long as it's white. This makes your eyes look a lot bigger and sort of more like an android. And this is how it turned out. You can really see the different colours at the bottom and how important it is to pick different colours and to change the metal a lot. As you can see, I kind of rushed the top, but hopefully yours will be much better. I actually like this makeup so much that it ended up being my art project for school. I haven't got the results yet, but fingers crossed. Hey guys, it's literally as easy as that. If you have any questions or requests, leave them in the comments. And if you want to find out more, you can visit our Facebook page. I'll leave a link to that in the description. This was a green crayon, and good luck.